Welcome to Headlines. This is David Lichtenstein in the Yeshiva Shalmaila, and a happy Shushan Purim to everybody. We have a wonderful program, Beards and Shaving in Halakha. We will have Rabbi Moshe Taub. He's the Rav of Holliswood. He's the Yami magazine columnist. We will have Rabbi Eisenstein speaking, our Shavis Muttar. He's the Rav of Maalot, Yersuahalayim, a close Talmid, the Mashbachber, Elyashiv, Zichron. From Chabad in Hungary, Budapest, we will have Rav Boruch Oberlander. He's the Chabad Rav and Avbezdin of Budapest, who wrote a number of Svarim about this. And we will have from Satma, Rabbi Moshe Kahana, the head of Machon, Zichron, Kehuna, head of Rabbi Balanes, all speaking about beards. We'll be looking at it from the Litvish side, from the Hasidic side. Should be a very interesting discussion. Before we begin, I would like to ask a question. We have so many Talmid Chachamim and Lamdim here. So this is going to be a straight Halakha program. There will be some social aspect. You'll hear the Hasidim speaking about the Kabbalistic reasons, etc., for having a beard. But I want to ask a Shaila learning, to our very learned Ilam, and anybody who wants could either email or call in with an answer. Everybody knows that the Gemara says that when Esther said Kasher Avadati, one of the Pshatim the Gemara says is, she says, until now, I was muttar to Mordechai because I was considered an Anusa. My relationships with Achashverosh were against my will. But now that I'm propositioning him, I'm not an Anusa anymore, and I become Avadati, I become Asa to my husband, to Mordechai, who until then she was muttar to. So here's a question I want to ask. Let's say you would have an Isha who is, somebody's being raidef her for a Dvar Avera, and she has a policeman standing next to him, and she say, hey, stop him. Or there's a guy right next door. She just, without any danger, could just stop him. And she doesn't. She's negligent. Or she has any of them 100 ways of stopping him. She could jump into an elevator and run away from him. She could lock the car and drive away. Would you say she has a din of Anusa if she does not do any of these very easy items? So the argument would be, in such a case, she's not an Anusa. She's doing it baratzin. So if so, I have a question. Months before this happened with the Kasher Avadati, you have Mordechai listening to the story of Bigsan Viseresh, that they're plotting to kill Achashverosh. He then sends a messenger to Esther to tell her, who then tells Achashverosh. So what is Esther at that point doing? She's saying, somebody's going to kill Achashverosh, who is my ma'anes, who's in effect the rapist of Mordechai, right? Who's doing it shaloiker tzayna. And what does she do? If she does nothing, Achashverosh dies, and Esther is free. She doesn't have to deal with it anymore. Instead, she tells Ahasuerus, who then saves his life by killing Bigsan Viseresh. Well, at that point in time, she's not an Anusa anymore. She's making an elective decision to allow Ahasuerus to continue having relationships with her. So why do you have to wait all the way till later in the Megillah till Avadati? It should be Avadati when she conspires with Mordechai to have and tells Ahasuerus to have Bigsan Viseresh killed. So we have so many intelligent, bright across the entire globe: America, Eretz Yisrael, England, South Africa. We've had from France, Australia. I think we have like 12 countries. Ask somebody, please come with an answer. So before we go to beards, I want to do a little bit of a hagdama. Okay, so a little bit of a prelude. So it says twice in the Torah, in Parshas Kedoshim, it says, "L'sashchis pas kanecha," do not destroy basically your beard, the corners of your beard. And in Parshas Emor, it says, "Upas kanecha lo yigalechu," do not shave. So the Gemara in Nazir says that you need both. You need both destruction and giluach. So, for example, the Gemara says a rihatni, which is either some type of a plane, a file, or according to some, it's a tweezer. That's not called shaving. Hashchas it is, destruction it is, but shaving it is. Or, for example, if you have a scissor is not destroying it, and it's not giluach. It's neither. So the Gemara says a misparayim would be muttar. The Rambam in Halachah Headlines, Yud Bey Zayin says giluach sheyesh by hashchasa is muttar. Chesef Mishnah says lechatchila. And the Gemara says you need giluach of a misparayim is muttar. You need giluach of tar. Giluach that has hashchasa. So you need both a razor, as well as total destruction, where there's nothing, you can't grab the hair with your nails. Some say it has to be a little bit longer. So you need both destruction of the hair, as well as, it's all the way down to the skin, as well as with a razor. That's what a Gemara is. That's stuff Mem Amar Aleph and Chesam and Bais. In Nazir, Misparayim Ke'en Tar is asa by a Nazir, but by a regular, but not by a Nazir, it's muttar. The Shulchan Aruch in Yeridea, in Kuf Pei Aleph, 180-110, says Paskin like that misparayim, a scissor that's ke'en tar, that seems to cut as close as a razor, is muttar. Why? Because it's not a tar. So you have ashchas. If you don't have a razor. You have two things. You need destruction of the hair all the way down, as well as a razor. That's how the Shulchan Aruch paskins. The Trumas Hadeshin argues. The Shach says we paskin like the Shulchan Aruch, not like the Trumas Hadeshin. So what does that mean? So in the Paiskim, you see when shavers came out, you see three different opinions. Well, what's the halacha? So you had the Shevet Levi, the Minchas Yitzchak. These are more recent Paiskim. They looked at the current shavers, and they say, you know what? An electric shaver, let's look at the results. The results are identical to that of a razor. So they say, if that's the case, we're going to look at it as both a razor, and a hashchasa. Other Paiskim argued, Rav Henkin, the great Paisik from America, Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank, they said, wait. A tar, a razor, the skin touches the blade directly. He said by an electric shaver, there's a screen there. It doesn't touch the skin, so the hair goes through the screen, and whatever comes through the screen, it gets clipped. So since the blade does not touch the skin directly, and that's the intent of the process, that is not called hashchasa kein tar, and therefore they argue on those that asr, and they say it's muttar. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, the Baligros Moshe, this is Al-Pi Messiah, many people heard it from him. Rabbi Vadia Yosef, they say a different reason. They say if there's a screen, so then what's happening is the blade is not cutting it independently like a sar, but the blade crushes the hair against the screen, and that's how it cuts. So they said that's not a tar anymore. So even if you have a shchas and it cuts all the way down, but since it's a combination action, basically it's a scissor. It's a blade cutting against the screen, which the combination causes the hair to be cut. So he says that's a scissor. So they're also mata, both Ramesh and Rabbi Vadia Yosef. And Ramesh says an interesting chiddush in the Baligros Moshe. Again, it's Pi Messiah. Many people heard it from him. He says that if it's not the derech giluach of the Gemara, right, that is not called derech giluach. So even though today you would say, well, electric shaver, that's called derech giluach, Ramesh says no, it had to do with the time of the Gemara. Now Ramesh would test whether the blade was actually sharp enough to cut by its own, or whether you need the screen. And what would he do? He would do the same thing that you do when you test the sakin shel shchita. He would take a hair and pull the hair across the blade. If a sakin shel shchita, if it slices right through the hair, you know it's sharp enough. If the shaver's blade, you pull it, and most of them are pretty flat, would not cut it. So then he said, then it needs the combination of screen and blade. He said, in that case, even if the blade would have touched the hair, it still wouldn't matter. It would touch the skin, it still wouldn't matter. That is not derech giluach. So again, we have, three different ways to be matir, and then you have those who paiskim u'asa, who say, you know what, it's just the derech, it's the results that matter. So that's sort of like a very short synopsis. The paiskim that we speak to will mention all of the above, so I thought I would give you a little bit of a sort of a heads up. And we're going to hear again about it from Halakha, from Kabbalah, and from Satma for social reasons. Let's go straight to our guests. We have on the phone with us from New York City, Rabbi Moshe Taub. He is a Talmid of Bais Medrash Kavaya of Lakewood. He's the helm of BVK, with the Kashrus organization. He's the Rav of the Young Israel of Holliswood. Before that, he was the Young Israel of Buffalo. He's also a columnist at Ami. Welcome, Rabbi Taub.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to speak to you again. If I could just say something before we begin.
Yeah.
Yashakayach, not just on your program, but on your svarim that you put out. I have to tell you, there's a young man in my shul. He's 11 years old, and he comes to me every night after Ma'ariv with questions of Halakha, and he doesn't just want to know the psak. He wants to know the mechanics, the engineering, the calculus of Halakha. And I always spend time with him. And then one day he came, because there's no real source for a child of that age, and one day he came to me so excited that he just bought a book and it's fulfilling everything he wants about his understanding and his desire to understand Halakha. And I say, what's the book? And he said, Headlines. And he had it underlined and he was enjoying it immensely. So not just adults and Rabbanim, but even young up-and-coming to me, the Chachamim, you're being Mahana.
Okay. I spend most of my time, a much more substantial part of my learning time, on another sefer called Mishnah Achrona, on Mishnah Bura, that I put out already, Chelik Gimel and Chelik Vav. Each one takes me around 4 to 4.5 years to go through. Wow. But it's funny that this is the one that gets a lot more publicity.
Like they say with Ramesha, Ramata Greenblatt once told me that Ramesha came to see him in Memphis, and he walks into Ramata's office, and he sees the Igros Moshe, all dog-eared and used up, and notes inside of it. And the Dibros Moshe on Shas was like up on a shelf, piled high, came out not opened. And he said, I saw my Rebbe get so upset. He didn't say anything, but he got so upset because to Ramoshe, the Dibros Moshe was his magnum opus. But sometimes,
Okay.
But Mirz Hashem, I look forward to seeing those svarim that you mentioned.
Okay, so we're talking this week about beards and about shaving, and I understand you've published about it. Have you gone through the sugya of, shaving as far as, is shaving what the different shittas, what type of shaving, or would you prefer to speak about some of the other shilas that have to do with beards?
Whichever it is. I mean, certainly it's a tremendous sugya. It's somewhat even controversial. There's a sefer by a Rabbi Weiner, published in Tafshin Lamed Ches, or Lamed Tes, called Hadras Panim Zaken, quoting the Gemara, Kufnan Beis and Shabbat. And it's 2 volumes, and all he does is focus on, the mashinkas, the electric shavers, but in general, but befrat, how every Jew has to have a beard. It's a Chassidish sefer. And it's a little bit controversial. If you walk into Chassidish Batei Midrashim, they have it there. They say over that when he came to Ramoshe, because he felt very strongly about beards, this topic in general, that every Yid has to have a beard. And there have been Litvisher Sheshivas who felt the same. But the legend goes, when he came to Ramoshe for Haskama, Ramoshe gave Haskamas a lot. People say he was a Sar Hamaskim, as long as someone was a Ben Torah. He refused, and he said, it's not our job when you see, Puch Chazi Madam Advar, there's a large segment of Bnei Torah who follow the Rosh Yeshivas, who don't have beards. So certainly, beards in general is fascinating if we want to go down that path. And when electric shavers were initially invented, and the samim, you go back to Rishonim. The Rishonim mentioned the samim they were put on their face. So for a long time, Yidden didn't have beards. The Chassam Sofer mentions the Ramami Pano, famously. A Makubal
didn't have a beard. Yeah.
Didn't have a beard.
As did the Mesilas Yesharim. The Mesilas Yesharim didn't have a beard until they moved to Eretz Yisrael.
Right. The Italian Rabbanim in general. And in fact, the Chassam Sofer writes in that Tshuva, somewhere in the Kuf, whatever it is, in the Tshuva, he writes that, I don't know anything about Teiras Nistar, which was not true, but he said that it's not just Pshat that it's muttar al pi nigla. It's also al pi Nistar. There's an inyan, because in Golos, a beard, a zaken, is so chashuv that in Golos maybe we're not worthy for it. And if I'm not mistaken, he claims that this is what these Italian Mukubalim felt. The Ritva mentions it too. I say the Ritva is a tshuva about the samim, the palators they would put on their face. But all of this is moot because today we have these electric shavers, and kiyadua, I remember in yeshiva, I'm sure you have memories as well, of the few bachurim who knew how to take clippers, open up the shaver and dull it, or take out the lift and cut. And this is a huge shaila in Halakha. And, I'm lucky. My beard is very light, so I was able to use a trimmer, and that's for sure not a shaila. But the Chofetz Chaim answered it, and others answered it, and certainly again, Pochazim Adam Advar among the Litvisha, especially in America, or Meko like Ramesha and others who hold
yeah.
that
We're going to try to have on Rabbi First, who is really the one who spoke to Rabbi Moshe about this, firsthand. So we're going to see if we can get him on to tell us about Rabbi Moshe's Shita.
Because Rabbi Moshe's Shita is not written, so I'll be fascinating to hear this conversation. They say, and you'll ask him, I'm sure, that Rabbi Moshe used to do the Sheicha test. He would take a hair,
right,
and slice it and see if it went through. But I don't think there's anything in writing. His whole Shita, that's from the Lashon of Rashi and Makas, of Derech, that even if the accomplishment of electric shaver is a razor, meaning it gets very close, it's still not the derech of shaving. But I would love to hear that discussion, because
there's Ramoshe's position is based upon, I guess, that the Gemara says that there's a machlekes whether a melakhet or rihafti, which either some type of a plane that they used to use to slice. But the Gemara says that even though, since it's not the derech, we hold no, it has to be a tar mamish. So Ramoshe's opinion is that even though that a shaver is used for shaving, but that is not the shaver that the Gemara talks about, a tar, and it's shaloi kederech. And I think you would say that even today that shavers have become very popular. Very few goyim use shavers.
But I mean,
it's still not the preferred method of cutting. We do it because it's the Halakha, but I've never seen a guy.
I would argue they do it out of convenience, knowing that if they had the time and sometimes the money and the patience, I think they would all use razors. It's a question of convenience. It's not.
I've never seen a guy use a shaver, honestly. Every time you see in the thing, they're always using razors. They're cheap, they're disposable, they do a better job. So the argument would be yes, there is a small segment of the population. So it was shaloi kederech then, and even though it's made for this, it's still shaloi kederech. And you don't even have, and you could extend this far. Some say that it was shaloi kederech at the time of the Mishnah, so it remains shaloi kederech today. But I would even make the argument that today it's shaloi kederech.
I've asked Goyim what they use. I haven't asked every guy I met, but I've asked Viamol, and they all say they own an electric shaver, but their preferred method, if they have time, is a razor. This is just a crutch. They use the electric shaver as a crutch. So I agree with you that still today, I don't think we have to come on to the chiddush of even if it changes, because with some of these inyanim, some change could affect according to many poskim. But in any event, I agree with you that it's still shalei kederech. I think that's pashut. But then again, there are poskim, Belsky and others, that felt there are specific shavers that, and this is something that you'll ask the posik that you'll have on soon. There are the screen shavers. When I was a bacher, that was the popular one that we heard. The legend was the poskim allow with a screen, because when you have a screen, there are some who say that when there's a hefsek, that alone is okay. And then the Shiloh Lifton cut. So, there are Paiskim who hold Lifton cuts also fine, but there are many Paiskim who hold not. I saw in an article in Tchumen, there are a couple of articles in Tchumen on this issue, that some Paiskim write, I shouldn't say Paiskim, but these authors who are big Talmid Chachamim, they're Mechadish, they base it on Chassam Sefer and others, that the only type of blade that has a din of hashchasa, because for the listener you need both giluach and hashchasa, which the terms that you use, ritani, we don't know exactly what they are. Let's say you said a plane or tweezers, whatever they may be. You need both. It has to be a cut and a destruction. So they say that the idea of destruction has to be that you could chop a bunch of hairs at once. That with a razor, the chiddush of a razor is, with one swoop, you get hundreds and hundreds of hairs. And so long as an electric shaver can't do that, which they can't, even the lift and cut, which, there's a good argument to make that it is similar to a tayar, because, the way it works, you have the dull blade and it lifts it out, and then you have the other blade that comes and, gets it at its root, mamish at its root. But they say, since the din of a razor is, a bunch of hairs at once, it's not a din razor. So there's so many shitas out there. I want to go back, if I could interject. You mentioned that when we started about beards in general, and I mentioned this sefer of Hadras Panim Zakein, and Chalila was I trying to diminish the author. Of course, he meant everything Latelis Harabim. But there's a Maisa, I don't know if you've heard this Maisa, it's a legend, with the Satmar Rebbe. The Satmar Rebbe, the Yoel, was in a car coming back from the mountains. And as we know, when you come back from the mountains, there are people hitching rides. So there's a yeshiva bacher, trying to get a ride. So the Satmar Rebbe tells the driver, pick him up. He's going to Williamsburg too, wherever he was going. We'll give him a lift. So the fellow's in the back, and he's clean shaven. He's a Litvisha bacher, and they drop him off wherever they drop him off. And the driver, the Satmar driver, turns to the Satmar Rebbe, and he makes a snide remark about him not having a beard, the bacher not having a beard. And they say that the Satmar Rebbe responded, and he said that there are two Yidden who come to Shemayim. You're right, there are Yidden who come to Shemayim, according to our Messiah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will ask him, Yid, wie sein der Bart? Where's your beard? But he said, don't forget, there's another type of Yid who comes to Shemayim. And that's some certain Yidden who are Hasidish. And they'll come to Shemayim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will say, Bard, wie sein der Yid? The ikar is that we follow our Messiah. And that's the key.
Okay. I mean, the Chassam Sofer is considered by the Litvish at least, sort of Chassidish. He certainly acted, many of his minhagim were Chassidish. He was certainly Kanoi. So when the Chassam Sofer says that he doesn't understand what the commotion about, and he says the Marami Panu didn't have a beard, I mean, that would seem to be powerful. I want to ask you, just as a Rav, I just wonder, like when somebody writes a 2-volume sefer on having a beard, right? And I've seen the sefer, and they're thick volumes, by the way. They're like 3 inches thick each one. I mean, each one is the size. Each one is the size of a phone book, and not a liquid directory. I'm talking about a Manhattan phone book. It's like when somebody takes one mitzvah or one hanhaga taiva and turns it into such a thing, I think there's something missing in perspective. It's like, somebody once asked me, he said, he saw somebody standing for 2 hours looking at an esrig. And he said, you could spend 2 hours with a magnifying looking at an esrig. How much time did you spend going through your finances to make sure there wasn't a shaila of Geneva or Gzela? Or did you look at all your loan applications and your mortgage applications to make sure there's no Geneva's das also? Like when we take one particular thing, which it's even a shaila, how big of an inyan? Is it an inyan? Is it an issa? And you write 2 volumes on it. Does it sort of distort the Taryag mitzvahs, where it gives sort of an uneven balancing to something? Like, what happened? Do you spend that much time looking at all your Bein Adam L'Chavere, which is, the Gemara says in Izu Ikrei Shel Torah, is a Klal Gadol B'Torah, it's Ikrei Shel Torah, and are you spending like the 2 hours, you spent 1,000 pages writing about beards? Like, does that as a Rav, does that strike you at all as something a little distorted?
I have so much to comment on what you said, but I'll be brief. A few Zachim. First of all, as we know, the Balei Musar do say that there's nothing wrong if someone has a Maimer Chazal or a mitzvah that they focus on, Natiyah and Neshama. So that in and of itself is not an issue. Before we get to this sefer, I'll give you an example. There's someone that I know, his name is Rabbi Aharon Levine, tremendous Talmid Chacham, and he's published countless Svarim on Yonis Machos, on Avelos, on Pikar Chaylim. And several years ago, he came out with a 2-volume set on Yahrzeit, just on Yahrzeit. And these are also like New York phone books. It's called Kolba Yahrzeit. It has everything on Yahrzeit. Now, it happens to be that as a Rav, the Miktsaya that we get shilos on more than anything else is Yahrzeit, so it happens to be helpful. But someone sent me on a blog that they were making fun of the Sefer. And in his case, it happens to be he lost a child when the child was very young, and he went to Rabbi Ruderman, his Rosh Hashiva, and his Rosh Hashiva told him he should dedicate his life to teaching the Hamaynam this sugya. So I think it depends on what a person, why he's doing it. I think where Moshe's point was very stark. You mentioned about Be'am L'Chavero and your loan documents. There's a famous Maisa of the fellow who's approached by Shul to become their Rav. And he went to his Rosh Hashiva and he said, what do I do? I don't want the achrayas of answering shailas and Hilchas Nida and Basar V'cholav and Hilchas Pesach. And the Rosh Hashiva said, well, what do you want to do? He said, I want to go into real estate. And the Yeshiva looked at him like he was crazy. Do you have any idea the Shilas and Choshen Mishpat that you're going to enter? You're going to leave, the problems you have of being a Rav, and you're going to take on perhaps even a greater Achrayas. So I think that's true as well. We have to have a sense of balance. But, I think that we're losing a little bit the idea of Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chayim, that everybody has to follow their Rebbeim. And the fact, I'll tell you, as you said, you look through the Sfarim, he doesn't really bring the Divrei Makilim. And he writes very sharp. And I think that's very dangerous. I think if this, I want to be careful because this is being recorded. But he's a tremendous Talmid Chacham, but I agree with many points that you said. To have a focus specifically on one inyan could be very dangerous. The Torah it's everything's connected. I remember once someone called me up with a shaila. He was going to an area that's a question of the time zone. So I told him, there happens to be someone who dedicates his life to this sugya. So he calls up this individual, and he calls me back, and he said, it's still not clear. So I said, maybe call a certain paisik. His life's not dedicated to that sugya, but call that paisik. And he said, after he got off the phone with that paisik, it was as clear as day. There's something to be said about someone who dedicates their life to a sugya. But if you don't view Torah as everything being connected, I think you lose something. I think there is certainly a danger.
A sense of balance is lost, right?
Sense of balance, yeah. The line from Winston Churchill is, a fanatic is someone who you can change their mind, and they can change the subject. But everything always comes back to the subject.
So, Rabbi Taub, you also wrote an interesting article, some other shilas that have to do with beards and with hair. Can you tell us, the Olam, a little bit about some of the shilas you discussed?
Yeah, this was the Geschmacka Shaila. I actually had a friend, a Rav here in Queens, Rabbi Hertz, who is very close to Paisik and Eretz Yisrael of Zilberstein, and I felt this was a perfect Shaila for Rav Zilberstein. So I told him, he happened to be going to Eretz Yisrael the other week, I said, could you ask him the Shaila? So the Shaila was like this. The first half of the Shaila, Rabbanim get all the time. It's a Shaila of Silbaish, or Yilbaish. Someone wanted to have a hair transplant. This was a Bachar, he was in his 30s, he felt that the calls dried up because partially he was going bald, prematurely bald, and he wanted to get a hair transplant. Okay, that's Shaila number one. We'll leave that off to the side. Shaila number two was, when he went to the doctor, and I wasn't aware of this, and in my research after I had the Shaila, it turns out this is a more common case than I thought. I'm surprised I never heard the Shaila before. The doctor tells him that, the way a hair transplant works is they take hair and skin from different parts of the body, the back of the head, lamashal, and they put it on the front of the head, and it grows naturally. But it's so sensitive and raw after the surgery that you mustn't, said the doctor, put anything heavy on your head. And the patient looks at him like, okay, I won't put anything heavy on my head. He didn't know what that could be referring to. And the doctor, wisely, a non-Jewish doctor, said, no, I don't think you get it. You're an Orthodox Jew, and the boxes, meaning the tefillin that you put on every day, you can't put on, meaning you can't put on a tefillin shel rosh. So now we have a serious shayla. A bit the laseh, and the din of tefillin b'chalal if it's kol yom v'yom. But also the shayla.
So as a Rabbi Taub, this is a sugya I haven't learned recently, but my first response would be that he's doing it al kavod abrius. And we would say, Gadol kavod abrius shadecha loisasei shebetayra, and this is a drabanan. So I don't.
What's the drabanan and what's the loisasei?
So here it would be an assay. So if a loisasei b'shev al tasa, an assay is certainly nidcha, but this is a drabanan. It's not even assay. To put tefillin on every day is a drabanan. It's not a deraisa.
Assay is tali b'shev al tasa. It's a shayla nachrenim, but.
Yeah, but for sure an assay. So it's a bittul assay. So, and it's not an assay because he's not a karkafta the loy manach tzil. The rice of tzilin is once. This is a drabanan of kol yom v'yom. So if it's levatel an assay, it's certainly.
There are shitas that holds the raisa.
I'm not aware of that. If you could point me to such a sheet, I'd appreciate it.
I'll look around as we're on the phone. The Brisker Rav was quoted as saying...
I know there's a Pri Megadim in Hilchos Tefillin that says something Mechudish Maid. He says that a kakafta, the Vaymanach Tefillin, is even somebody who misses a day, which is a real chiddush to say that the Chiv Drabanan gives you a din of kakafta, the Vaymanach Tefillin. The Pri Megadim is a chiddush, and you need a Raya Gedayla to say that. But I don't know if the Rice, I haven't learned this in a while. I learned Hilchos Tefillin 2 years ago. I don't know of a Shita. I wrote on it around 2 or 3 years ago.
It's been a while for me as well. If I recall, there's a tremendous machlokes, Rishonim and Achreinim, as to what Befrat is the Chiv Da'araisa of Tefillin. If it's, how often it has to be, but the Shita among the Achreinim that they quote, a lot of people quote, is the Brisker Rav, that it's a continuous chiyuv, meaning that there's a chiyuv at every moment you could wear tefillin.
There's no doubt that there's a kiyum every minute.
No.
But the question is the chiyuv to put it on every day, would that be a daraisa? That's what I'm referring to.
I understand the distinction that you're making, and I believe there are Rishonim who hold like that, but I can't say a source.
Okay, so what did Rav Zolberstein paskin? Don't keep us in suspense.
I'll tell you what happened. It was actually very interesting. So I sent a shout to a few paiskim to see what they had to say. Maybe I could quote, Rabbi Feinstein felt that, unlike what you were saying, he felt that there's a mitzvah to put on tefillin, a chiv to put on tefillin, and there's no heter bechlal. You're being mevatel and I say that, right? And there's no heter bechlal. Another paisik.
By the way, he could certainly put on tefillin shel yad.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's something that actually we should point out for the listener, that if ever there's a situation where, maybe one of the tefillos are being checked or they have a cast on, you could put on one, not the other. That's mefurish halacha. But in any event, the assistant rabbi here went to his Rosh Yeshiva and asked him, and he quoted this Brisker Rav and said a tremendous chiddush. I thought that when the surgery is over and the week that he recovers is done with, he should make a cheshbon of how many minutes or hours of tefillin he missed and put on that next day tefillin for that amount of time.
No, but it doesn't.
Because he's.
So what is he saying? Is he saying you're allowed to not put on the tefillin for the day? Is that what he's basically saying?
He's saying, yeah. I think I could quote who it was. It was a personal shachtar. I know you had him on the radio, and I'm a cliche.
But why wouldn't you say El Gadol covered abrias? Why wouldn't you say that?
I hear when he's on the radio. I know you have him on. You can ask him the shayla.
I hear. Okay.
To me, the bigger chiddush was. Besides that, he was probably quoting from Soloveitchik, who was quoting from his zayda, or in this case his uncle. But the bigger chiddush I thought was that we don't put on tefillin. We don't keep tefillin on for so long. We're not. Our bodies aren't nikian. We hesech das is a big yitzhara for us today. So maybe he meant that 10 minutes extra every day until you make up the time. But I can't imagine he meant that you're going to put on tefillin for. We're not Rav Scheinberg. We're not going to put on tefillin for 4 or 5 hours. That's a tremendous nisayon. But anyway, it's a big chiddush. But I happen to have mentioned the shaila to various rabbanim, speaking over the sugya. I wasn't going doctor shopping, but to Rav Hertz, I said ask Rav Zilberstein. But what I pointed out in the column that I wrote, I gave over a shiur, really focusing on the leisil beish issues of the matter. And at the end of the shiur, someone says, "I don't understand the shaila. There's an easy way out." And I said to the balabas, "What are you talking about? I spent so long on this sugya." And he said, no. Let him get the procedure, Erev Pesach or Erev Sukkot.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Will be swallowed up. So I get a call that afternoon from my friend Rav Hertz, and he said, I spoke to Rav Zilberstein. I said, what did he say? He said, I don't understand, get the surgery, Pesach,
Erev Pesach. Yeah. No, but I'll tell you what the problem with that is that if he's in a lot of pain, so he would have to be doichi yamtif with other ishailos with painkillers, etc. Which is why Rav Shlomo Zalman writes it's never good to get a medical procedure immediately prior to Shabbos or yamtif because you'll be a dying being machnas yourself into where you may have to be over an issa.
Painkillers.
It's also a drabanan.
But it's the rabbanon for everybody. But today that
so I'm saying it's one drabanan or another drabanan. I'm not sure what you're being more.
Okay, that's the shaila you could ask Schachter. He'll take a hold of the rabbanon. But I hear, the Divrei Chaim holds today because the whole shaila with medicine is a gzeir al teichen, and today that really no pills are teichen. But we should point out there is the whole other issue here of le'yilbesh, and which is a serious issue. today.
I think men do it. I think men do it as much as women. Hair transplants is a men's thing. It's not even a woman's thing. It's hard to really get it. It would be a hard case to say this myself.
The Rambam has a big chiddush. There's no Gemara or Medrash, Sifri. There's no mention of dyeing hair. The Chazal in various sugyas in Shabbos and in Makkos, whatever, a few other sugyas in Nazir that they talk about plucking hairs. Dyeing hairs is a chiddush of the Rambam.
Right. Karech Bikan, the Gemara. Yeah.
But the Shalom Mesha, there are those that have sources from Chazal. But in any event, it's unique to a man in this case, this type of Yilbush, of playing with your hair and doing certain things with your hair. Hair on the body, that's a derabanan, and then there's plucking hair, which is a deraisa, and the Rambam seems to say, and again, the Shalom Meshiv says that there are others who disagree, but the Rambam seems to say that this will be a deraisa. So,
it's worth discussing. Yeah.
It's not so.
Rabbi Taub, I have to apologize, but we're out of time.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but this was fascinating. Yeah, and so much more to discuss. But thank you. It's been an honor having you on with us.
Continue that tzlach on Yevaydis HaKodesh.
Take care. We have on the phone with us Hagayin Rabbi Eisenstein from Yersuahalayim. He was the Makurev, Shamash B'Kodesh with the Rashke Bahag, Rabbi Elyashiv Zichron Lavracha. He also made him the head of the Geirus Bezdin and many other shtellas. He's a Rav in Yerushalayim. Welcome, Reb Nochum.
Welcome. Thank you. Shalom Aleichem to all the listeners.
I wanted to know Rabbi Elyashiv's shita on shavers, and you're both an American, and you were mashamish by him. Maybe you could give us his opinion and some perspective.
Okay, so again, the Rabbi Yosef, everyone knows the Rabbi Yosef, I heard it from him many, many times, that people came and brought him shavers, which he wouldn't even look at it. Rabbi Yosef holds that there's a suffix, Issa Deraisa, but if you use any shave which we use, which may take out two hairs to the hairline, there's an Issa Deraisa. So Rabbi Yosef held using any shaver, and tests were made in Eretz Yisrael. Tests were made in Eretz Yisrael on the different situations. The person comes out. They use goyim. It was done on goyim. That person has a hard beard, a soft beard. There's different types of skin, this and that. When the person's sweating, when the person comes out of a shower, the tests were made in all kinds of different conditions. And after this, they took magnifying glasses, a good magnifying, and they looked in the person, and they saw in almost all cases there were at least two hairs, which were uprooted from the hairline. So because of that, there's no shaver that Rav Yosef was ever matter. There are certain shavers now in Eretz Yisrael which really are more like trimmers, that they have a hechsher from reliable rabbanim. So those have a shield on it, and it's not possible that it should go down to the hairline. Now, even it should be known, and Baruch Hashem today, but they tell you that Yisrael is always makubal by the Yeshiva not to use shavers. But in America, there are parts of American Bochum coming to Israel now also, which they're makbid not to use shavers, that they use trimmers. You have to know when you use a trimmer, if you don't use it the right way, then a trimmer also can be a shaila. And the right way means you have to use it with the trimmer, when the shield on the trimmer is down. If you turn it upside down, and the piece which a piece that moves, which is the scissor part, is facing the skin, then it's possible also that you can uproot two hairs from, or only one hair, you can uproot hairs till the skin line. So it's very important when people come to me, Bochum, and they are shilas, I tell them, when you use a trimmer, you also have to use it the proper way. The Rav Yosef was machmer also when using cream and things like that. He had chumras and that also, but since I don't think it's so popular using cream and in America. That's Zichron. I was in America recently, and I visited someone who's in jail for Nazis for reasons which he shouldn't be there. And all of a sudden I came and I saw him. He grew a beard. So I asked him, why did he grow a beard? He says because in the jail you're not allowed to use shavers. You're only allowed to use cream. And the cream was irritating his face, so he had no choice to grow a beard. But a cream, even if it's used, Rabbi Yosef is makpid that if you have a light beard, maybe a younger bacher can use a cream, that it's when you rub off the cream, you cannot rub it off with anything which has a sharpness. And we showed him a credit card, and you take a credit card, you see the corners of the credit card have a sharpness on it. And Rabbi Yosef held that's also considered a mashchis, and you cannot take off the cream with a credit card that has a pointy credit card that's not roundish, but it's squarish. So but again, it's well known. It's not only Rabbi Yosef that every posik in Israel, every posik, they signed letters against it. This is already a story from about 30 or 40 years ago when shavers started becoming popular in Eretz Yisrael. That they wrote letters, and I have letters from all of Israel that no shaver is allowed to use. Now they have what's called lift and cut and all kinds of other things. There's Rabbanim say if you take out the lift and cut, you take out the lift, you can take out something, it's okay. But again, people make tests on it. There's tests. It's not that they're saying things which may be in ulai, but they make tests, and that even if you take out the lift and cut, you take out the lift, there's still, they found after these tests that the 1 or 2 hairs or hairs were sometimes uprooted from the hairline. Now, I was told from the family from Moshe that even in the family from Rav Moshe, it's questionable what Moshe was matter, and there's a lot of Rabbanim from the Mishpacha from Rav Moshe that they also say that you should not use shavers.
As always, it's an honor and an interest having you on. Thank you so much. Kol Tov HaGoter. Bye-bye. We have the honor of having with us on the phone from Budapest, Hungary, Rabbi Baruch Oberlander, who's the Chabad Rav of Budapest. He's the head of the Bezdin of Budapest. Welcome, Rav Oberlander.
Hello. Hi. Shalom Aleichem.
Rav Oberlander, you've published about the Shita of Chabad as far as shaving. Could you give us a synopsis of what the Chabad Shita is?
The Chabad Shita goes like this. We're talking about simple Shulchan Aruch. Yoredeya Siman Kuf Pei Aleph says that Peyois Hazoken, the beard, the only Isser is if it's done B'Ta'ar, but not the Misparayim. Afilu Ke'en, meaning not with a scissor, anything that doesn't take off the whole, leaves no hair, nothing left. That's as long as it doesn't do, as long as it's only a scissor. It's not a tar, then it's okay. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. So, which would mean that there's not a problem of shaving. But before we go to the Chabad Shita, we have to stop for a minute because there is a problem with shaving, which a lot of poskim brought up, that. A lot or most of the shavers today might come close or be considered a tar, which they take off the beard, they take off the hair very, very smooth and clean. So a lot of places can say that that's not what's allowed. The only thing which is allowed is the scissor, which leaves some shoyresh, leaves some left over, so it's not a complete smooth shave. So once we're talking about not a 100% smooth shave, so it seems like the Shulchan Aruch says that it's allowed, and the Rema is not chaylik. He doesn't say different than the Machaber than the Bais Yosef. There is one little problem here that the Machaber says afilu b'misparayim muttar. He uses the word muttar, which means it's allowed which muttar usually means allowed lekatchila. The source of this is in the Rambam, Hilchos Avodah Zarah, Perik Yud Bais, and the Rambam uses the word potur, which means that it's not an issue.
I think I'm worried, but I think the Kesef Mishnah there says that it's muttar lechatchila, doesn't he?
Yes. The Kesef Mishnah is the Beis Yosef.
Yeah.
The Kesef Mishnah is the Beis Yosef, but I'm talking about the Rambam says the word potur. So the Kesef Mishnah, the Beis Yosef, says that he means muttar, and that's why in Shulchan Aruch he made sure to fix the language that it should say muttar. Now the Tzemach Tzedek in his Shuvas Yeridei Tzadi Gimel, he doesn't like the idea, because he says, look in the halachas before and after, you see that the Rambam very clearly differentiates between potur and muttar. The Rambam doesn't write potur when he means muttar. So Tzemach has here a whole long tshuva of like 15 pages, and he starts the whole sugya of Nozir, Nun Ches Amid Bais, Nun Tes Amid Aleph, where the Gemara is talking about Omar Rav Mekel Adam Kol Gufay Betar, or Rabbi Kahana says that is loika. And over there we're talking about Kol Gufay, which wouldn't mean also the beard, but from that, and what is the shaila over there in the Gemara? Over there, the shaila is in the Gemara, as Rashi says, the aim boy, or there is Mishum lo yilbash gever simlas isho. So meaning there's two questions over here. There's one question of lo yisakifu pa'as roishchem, and you shouldn't betar, and you shouldn't cut the beard with a tar. And there's another shaila of shaving different parts of the body, the shaila of silbash gever simlas isha. So the Tzemach Tzedek goes through the whole sugya, and he points out that according, that it seems from the sugya that only the hair of the goof is allowed, but the hair of the beard is not going to be allowed, and the problem is of silbash gever simlas isha. And he connects this to the Gemara. He connects it to the Gemara that you're not allowed to take levenos mitech shchoires, which is also leisilbash. So he says, if you're not allowed to take levenos mitech shchoires, how come you? Because lenoi, it's leisilbash. How come you're allowed to take off the whole beard? So that's why he says, and that's why he comes back to the Rambam, that the Rambam means potter. He doesn't means only potter and does not mean muttar. Because there is a problem here with there could be a problem here of loy silbash. This is the halachic side of the whole shaila.
Okay, so let's talk halacha. So first of all, does the Rav Shulchan Aruch bring this or no? Does he argue in the Beis Yosef?
There's no Rav Shulchan Aruch, or there never was, but at least. Kahane has full Yeridei, and he has a little, and Cheshemishpad he has a little. Halachas melukot.
Okay, so here's my question. Okay, I mean it's the pashtus of when the Gemara talks about the din of loy silbash, the Gemara Nazir on Daf Nuntes is talking about the Bais Hashechi. It's talking about parts of the body where an isha has hair, so for style or for whatever they shave. So it says by an ish there would be an isser of loy silbash. The din of malaket levenes mitach shchayres. Everybody has hair, so women would pick out the white and men would pick out the white. How could you say there's an isser of loy silbash on a beard when a woman doesn't have a beard? Can you think of a single place where you have a loy silbash on something that's impossible by the woman? How can you say loy silbash big day isha when an isha cannot do that? It's impossible.
The Tzemach Tzedek touches on this in length. He says First he says that you see that a woman that levenis mitach of the beard is also not allowed, even though a woman doesn't have a beard. But then he says you could say that a woman has hair somewhere else, which he could do levenis mitach. But then he continues. He says no. The concept is lenoi. And Illinois doesn't have to mean that the woman should do the same way, exactly the same way with all the details. The main thing is that it's trying to put up Illinois and.
So Illinois, could a man, if a man wears a very fancy tie or a suit, would there be a shaila of leisilbash?
The Tzemach Tzedek brings this up also. He says, what about? He says it can be that a dress should be leisilbash, but I think the point that he makes on this is that it's like from the guf. It's an ois test. I think what he points out, he says that lenoi, everything he do with the guf, lenoi is leisilbash.
I'm saying, but on begadim we said leisilbash begedisha. So if a guy puts on a very fancy suit, which is exactly where it is, would you say that now a guy's over leisilbash?
No, that's what I'm saying. He says if you do it with your guf, not on putting on something.
But I'm asking you a question. The ikka din of leisilbash is brought by begadim, right? Leisilbash. So you're saying by silbash you couldn't have by a guy. You couldn't have such a case. But by the guf, which is a chiddush, right? Over there, even if it's a different party, there's leisilbash.
Yeah.
Where the ikar halacha is brought, you're saying over there you don't have leisilbash by a man. But where the ikar halacha isn't brought, over there you would have leisilbash by a man.
Yeah, give me a second. Let me just review it in a second. ולא בכל נוי שמסנועס עצמי חושב לילבש גבר זה אי אפשר, אם כן יהיה חייב כשלא ישמלבש יופי מועד.
I'm saying, so with a very nice suit, you would be a shaila of leisilbash.
Aber nire de inyan fische isha in asar des kana al ken afem is kein im neuen des gebachol gesare I think the point that he says is over here. He says that a woman doesn't have hair means that her face is always young and beautiful. So says when a man makes his face young and beautiful, it's considered leisilbash. I don't have an answer to that point of how come leisilbash simlas isha would I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question.
Okay. So bottom line is the halachic thing is that the tzemach, and by the way, I tried to go through the tshuva, but like you said, it's 15 pages long. It's a very long tshuva. Sorry, I ran out of steam. You also have to have the time. I ran out of steam. I went through the first 2 or 3 pages.
You see always best way he deals with this question.
I understand. So basically, he argues on the Shulchan Aruch, and he says a chiddush that the beard is a leisilbash, even though an isha can't have a beard, which is a double chiddush. To argue on the but let's talk. So that's the halachic background. What's about from a Kabbalistic background? Let's talk about that.
Because what we're talking here is still about shaving. Yeah, the Tzemach Tzedek does not talk about trimming. The Tzemach Tzedek talks about shaving, and that he claims that again the Zichron he has right in the beginning he has a very strong expression like tiyufta or mufrach against the Beis Yosef, an unusual strong expression against the Shulchan Aruch, writes muttar. But going down, then we get to the Kabbalah point, which is brought in Be'er Heitiv over there in Shulchan Aruch Kuf Pei Aleph, and Be'er Heitiv brings from the Arizal. The Arizal says shouldn't cut at all, meaning shouldn't trim the beard with nothing, not with a scissor, not with anything else. And besides, says the seir she'al hasofa hama'akev achila, since it doesn't let you eat, then the mustache, then you're allowed. That's the only part you're allowed. And he says gam hoye niza shlo liga bezikne, even to the point that Arizal was very careful not even to touch his beard. So he shouldn't chaz v'sholem take out of here. The mocker of the Arizal is in Shar HaMitzvahs. Shar HaMitzvahs Parshas Kedoshim, where he very strongly points this out, that the beard symbolizes hashpah from Hashem, and cutting the beard, it cuts like the hashpah of Hashem. He writes chaz v'sholem, and it can't be done. Iser godel ma'oid hu la'koir elitleish biyode afil sa'ar echad bevad b'chol makoim zikna ki hem tzinoiros shel shefa. And this point is not only we're talking about star or misparayim. This is trimming any part of the beard.
So there's a tshuva from the Chassam Sofer where he writes that he says the Merami Panu, who was certainly a big makubal from the Talmidim, I believe, right, of the Ari, right?
Talmidim.
And he didn't wear a beard, right?
Yeah, that's the version.
Yes, and the Lutzato, the great Lutzato, till he reached Eretz Yisrael, didn't have a beard. And I saw some of the late Achronim say that even though they were clearly from the Talmidim of the Ari, but in Chutz La'aretz it wasn't relevant. It seems that Chabad doesn't embrace this svara.
No, by the way, against the Chassam Sofer, you have a long tshuva in the Minchas Halacha. First, he's trying to debate the fact if the Mami Pana did have a beard or not. He discredits it.
I respectfully don't think the Minchas Halacha is a bar plucked of the Chassam Sofer, but that's maybe a separate conversation. Okay, continue. Yeah. Yeah.
So. And there were different. Obviously, there were different opinions on the subject, but Chassidim in general and Chabad in particular were very, very strict on this subject.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the lashonos of the Chassam Sofer is like Mali b'nistares, right? So, but here's another question. Okay, the Chabad seems to want to go, with the Derech HaKabbalah, right? They do a lot, but like there's a lot of things in the Ari. Like if we started doing Al Pi Ari, like do you eat Sha'asiris? What time of the day you're allowed to eat? Because these hours, the Dinim HaShoylet and the Dinim HaShoylet, they could be Oiker, the Chelik HaTzilus of the Adam that we write. I mean, does Chabad do that too?
No, it's a very good point, and that's why I didn't start with the Arizal. I started with the Be'er Hatev quoting the Arizal, because at such a question, do we go according to Kabbalah or not? It's a difference if it's, we call it clean Kabbalah or Kabbalah brought down in the Poiskin. And brought down in the Poiskin, like Be'er Hatev on the Shulchan Aruch, is like the Magen Avraham constantly bringing Kavanis, or even Yosef sometimes bringing in the Zohar. It's different. It's not clean Kabbalah. It's already Kabbalah, which Poiskim brought down into the realm of Halakha.
Okay. So
interesting. There is a letter from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, which he writes. I believe it's to the Rebbe, but I'm not sure. To his son-in-law, that he writes about a shoichet which doesn't have a beard. He said it's a difference. We were talking about a shoichet that comes from a background, that's a Chassidish background, or a shoichet from a German background where they didn't have beards. Because if it's a shoichet that comes from a German background, he says you could accept it because it could be a fully Yerei Shamayim because this is how their Messiah went on. But if we're talking about Sheikhad in the Chassidische background, or from such Kehillas that they did have beards, so the Sheikhad which doesn't have a beard is considered that he's missing a little Yerushalayim.
Yeah, we had on before a Satmar, a Rav from Satmar, and he said it's a little bit like wearing a yarmulke. He didn't go Kabbalistic or Halakha. He said, this is our Messiah. He says, so when somebody walks in without a yarmulke, walks into shul or whatever, you would say, by Sfardim, by Ashkenazim, even Stam without a yarmulke, you would say, who steht? I mean, I'm quoting by my heart, but I think the Magen Avram or the Taz in Bais says calls it a Midas Chasidus. He says, would you say, okay, the person's not over, is not being Mekayim a Midas Chasidus? So you would say, Ayid gate mit a yarmulke. So he said, wearing a beard is sort of like wearing a yarmulke. By us, it's not halacha, it's not that. This is the tzura, and if you take it off, it says something. Would you say Chabad has that attitude too, or is it really more a halacha and a Kabbalah thing?
I mentioned the yarmulke happens to be that Tzemach Tzedek claims that it's strictly halacha. Also, the Tzemach Tzedek.
I'm just quoting. Okay. I don't have a Shulchan Aruch in front of me, but I believe it's either the Magen Avram or Taz that calls it a Midas Chasidus. There's a stira in two Makaimis in the Shulchan Aruch the Magen Avram brings. If you look at
there's no question that in Chabad the shaving is considered strictly halacha, and the beard is Kabbalah. It's not Midas Chasidus.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. What about trimming a beard? Is it allowed?
I'm talking about trimming. The trimming is Kabbalah. Shaving is halacha.
So you don't shave it al halacha al silbash, and you don't trim it because you're being saistem or you're being mekatzer, but it's b'tzias almost by in the tziniris. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
And in Chabad, if somebody would shave, like what's the chaymer that they would look at it?
Listen, it's a strange question because Chabad would try to be makar of everybody that is even if he's a machal of Shabbos. So if somebody trims his beard or shaves his beard, you surely should be makar of him. Chabad is not into kanoes. That like by proving him wrong by being kicking him out of shul.
I'm saying, but I'm saying if they name it on la halacha, so if somebody shaves, he's an avarian in respect. I mean, he's over on loy silbash. I mean, it's not nisr of taglachas, but he's over on a lav.
Yes, this is
right. And Lamashal, and I'll tell you something else. The Shulchan Aruch says that I'm embarrassing myself. I think in Kufran Ches that if somebody's over in Yeridei Kufran Ches, that if somebody's over a lav b'tzmidis, right, he gets a din of somebody's over a lav on a daily basis, right? He has a din of meridim v'lei malin. He has a din of gets the din of a kaifer because
he's a mummer on this thing.
Yeah, he has a din of a mummer lahachis, even if he does it l'tayavein, but if he does it for b'tzmidis, it's not considered a mummer l'tayavein anymore. It gets a din of a mummer lahachis because he says, "Look, I'm totally indifferent." When somebody's totally indifferent, so that's the chaymer that Chabad takes it.
In inyan, yes. Practically, I never heard or met such chaymer but in inyan, since we're talking about the same fact that it's halacha, and it could go, it could be the Iraisa. So in inyan, this is the way.
Now,
we look
are
at
there
it.
other areas that you could think of in Chabad where they would argue on the Shulchan Aruch and say, we argue on the Shulchan Aruch, and this is the way? Could you think of other places? I mean, to come out against the Bais Yosef like this with such a tkifis.
No, the comment that he makes, like tiyufta or what is the lotion over there, is a strong lotion. But it's like the question is I don't think is right because when you learn Shulchan Aruch, the Shach and the Taz and the Magen Avram sometimes come out against the Machaber, and it's part of the halachic discussion. So
I understand, but I would respectfully say that there's a little bit of a difference is that usually when you have a Ramah or a Shach or a Taz, they'll say, we're not going with the Bais Yosef here, we're going with the Rambam. We're not going with the Bais Yosef, we're going to go with the Trumas Hadeshin. We're not going with the Bais Yosef. They're going to be tied with themselves, the Elan Gadol, just to learn a new shot that argue on the Bais Yosef it occurs, but it's less common.
No, over here also, the Tzemach Tzedek goes for on the Rambam. The Tzemach Tzedek brings the Rambam.
I understand, but who argues on the Rambam Beferish?
Who are the poskim that are already besides the
which of the Rishon? No. Which of the
the Lashon is in Oizayin, the Tiyuf to the Bais Yosef.
Yeah, so I'm saying the Tar Kain, Misparaim Kain Tar. Are there any Rishonim that say that there's an Isser? I don't know of any Rishonim.
The Tzemach Tzedek brings the Sefer HaChinuch over there in Oizayin.
That says it's like Silbash?
No, that it's Osir. Because of Rambam Zam Megillah B'Shalayim Potter, nirem mit Dvorat Dafke Potter hu, aber Osir Lase is kein. And he says, and he points to Mesechtes Nozes, so Tzemach Tzedek, he's pointing to the same sugi here in Ches Nun Tes.
Who, the Sefer HaChinuch?
Yes.
I have to look that up. Well, Rabbi Oberlander, it's an honor to have you on, and could you bench the whole olam the bracha of a shliach from Hungary who goes to such a remote place with such mesiras nefesh? Give uns Vinchens ala bracha. Let's get a bracha from you.
Hashem should help you and all the listeners. So kennen ton laharbis kveit shemayim. Whatever you do, wherever you meet a Yid, try to get him a step closer to Yiddishkeit.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi Oberlander.
Thank you.
Kolta, bye-bye. We have the honor of having with us on the phone from Budapest, Hungary, Rabbi Baruch Oberlander, who's the Chabad Rav of Budapest. He's the head of the Beis Din of Budapest. Welcome, Rav Oberlander.
Hello. Hi. Shalom Aleichem.
Rav Oberlander, you've published about the Shita of Chabad as far as shaving. Could you give us a synopsis of what the Chabad Shita is?
The Chabad Shita goes like this. We're talking about simple Shulchan Aruch, Yoredeya Siman Kuf Pei Aleph, says that Peyos Hazoken, the beard, the only Isser is if it's done the Ta'ar, but not the Misparaim. I feel like an Ta'ar, meaning not with a scissor, anything that doesn't take off the whole, leaves no hair, nothing left. That's as long as it doesn't do. As long as it's only a scissor, it's not a tar. Then it's okay. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. So, which would mean that there's not a problem of shaving. But before we go to the Chabad Shita, we have to stop for a minute because there is a problem with shaving, which a lot of poskim brought up, that a lot or most of the shavers today might come close or be considered a tar, which they take off the beard, they take off the hair very, very smooth and clean. So a lot of poskim say that that's not what's allowed. The only thing which is allowed is the scissor, which leaves some shoyresh, leaves some left over, so it's not a complete smooth shave. So once we're talking about not a 100% smooth shave, so it seems like the Shulchan Aruch says that it's allowed, and the Remo is not choylek. He doesn't say different than the Machaber than the Bais Yosef. There is one little problem here that the Machaber says afilu b'misparayim muttar. Muttar. He uses the word muttar, which means it's allowed, which muttar usually means allowed lekatchila. The source of this is in the Rambam, Hilchas Avodah Zarah Perik Yud Beis, and the Rambam uses the word potur. which means that it's not an issue.
I think I'm work, but I think the Kesef Mishnah there says that it's muttar l'chatchila, doesn't he?
Yes. The Kesef Mishnah is the Bais Yosef.
Yeah.
The Kesef Mishnah is the Bais Yosef, but I'm talking about the Rambam says the word potter. So the Kesef Mishnah, the Bais Yosef, says that he means muttar, and that's why in Shulchan Aruch he made sure to fix the language that it should say muttar. Now the Tzemach Tzedek in his Shuvas Yeridei Tzadik Gimel, he doesn't like the idea, because he says, look in the halachas before and after, you see that the Rambam very clearly differentiates between potter and muttar. The Rambam doesn't write potter when he means muttar. So Tzedek has here a whole long tshuva of like 15 pages, and he starts the whole sugya of Nozir, Nun Ches Amid Bais, Nun Tes Amid Aleph, where the Gemara is talking about Omar Rav Mekel Adam Kol Gufoy Betar, or Rabbi Kahana says that is Loika. And over there we're talking about Kol Gufoy, which wouldn't mean also the bears, but from that, and what is the shaila over there in the Gemara? Over there, the shaila is in the Gemara, as Rashi says, the aim boy, or there is mishum lo yilbash gever simlas isha. So meaning there's two questions over here. There's one question of lo yisakifu pa'as roishchem, and you shouldn't betar, and you shouldn't cut the beard with a tar. And there's another shaila of shaving different parts of the body, the shaila of silbash gever simlas isha. So the Tzemach Tzedek goes through the whole sugya, and he points out that according, that it seems from the sugya that only the hair of the goof is allowed, but the hair of the beard is not going to be allowed, and the problem is of lo silbash gever simlas isha. And he connects this to the Gemara. He connects it to the Gemara that you're not allowed to take levenos mitach shchoires, which is also lo silbash. So he says, if you're not allowed to take levenos mitach shchoires, how come you? Because lenoi, it's a silbash. How come you're allowed to take off the whole beard? So that's why he says, and that's why he comes back to the Rambam, that the Rambam means potter. He doesn't means only potter and does not mean muttar. Because there is a problem here with there could be a problem here of loy silbash. This is the halachic side of the whole shaila.
Okay, so let's talk halacha. So first of all, does the Rav Shulchan Aruch bring this or no? Does he argue in the Bais Yosef?
There's no Rav Shulchan Aruch, or there never was, but at least. Kahane has full Yeridei, and he has a little, and Cheshemishpat he has a little. Halachas melukot.
Okay, so here's my question. Okay, I mean it's the pashtus of when the Gemara talks about the din of loy silbash, the Gemara Nazir on Daf Nuntes is talking about the Bais Hashechi, is talking about parts of the body where an isha has hair, so for style or for whatever they shave. So it says by an ish there would be an isser of loy silbash. The din of malaket levenes mitach shchayres. Everybody has hair, so women would pick out the white and men would pick out the white. How could you say there's an isser of loy silbash on a beard when a woman doesn't have a beard? Can you think of a single place where you have a loy silbash on something that's impossible by the woman? How can you say loy silbash big de isha when an isha cannot do that? It's impossible.
The Tzemach Tzedek touches on this in length. He says first he says that you see that a woman that levenes mitach shchoires of the beard is also not allowed, even though a woman doesn't have a beard. But then he says you could say that but that you could say that a woman has, if the woman has hair somewhere else, which she could do levenis mit ashchoyer, but then he continues, he says, no, the concept is lenoi, and lenoi doesn't have to mean that the woman should do the same way, exactly the same way with all the details. The main thing is that he's trying to put up lenoi. And
so lenoi, could a man, if a man wears a very fancy tie or a suit, would there be a shayla of leisilbash?
The Tzemach Tzedek brings this up also. He says, what about? He says it can be that a dress should be leisilbash, but I think the point that he makes on this is that it's like from the guf. It's an ois test. I think what he points out, he says the lenoi, everything he do with the guf, lenoi is lesilbash.
So bottom line is the halachic thing is that the tzemach, and by the way, I tried to go through the tshuva. It's 15 pages long. It's a very long tshuva. I ran out of steam. You also have to have the time. I ran out of steam. I went through the first 2 or 3 pages. He argues on the Shulchan Aruch, and he says a chiddush that the beard is a leisilbash, even though an isha can't have a beard, which is a double chiddush. To argue on the but let's talk. So that's the halachic background. What's about from a Kabbalistic background? Let's talk about that.
Because what we're talking here is still about shaving. Yeah, the Tzemach Tzedek does not talk about trimming. The Tzemach Tzedek talks about shaving, and that he claims that again the Shulchan he has right in the beginning he has a very strong expression like tiyufta or mufrach against the Beis Yosef, like an unusual strong expression against the Shulchan they writes muttar. But going down, then we get to the Kabbalah point, which is brought in Be'er Heitiv over there in Shulchan Aruch Kuf Pei Aleph. And the Be'er Heitiv brings from the Arizal. The Arizal says shouldn't cut at all, meaning shouldn't trim the beard with nothing, not with a scissor, not with anything else. And besides, it says the Seir Sha'al HaSofa Hama'akev Achila, since it doesn't let you eat, then the mustache, then you're allowed. That's the only part you're allowed. And he says Gam Hoya Niza Shlo Liga Bezikne, even to the point that Arizal was very careful not even to touch his beard, so he shouldn't chaz v'sholem take out of here. The mocker of the Arizal is in Shar HaMitzvahs. Shar HaMitzvahs Parshas Kedoshim, where he very strongly points this out that the beard symbolizes hashpah from Hashem, and cutting the beard, it cuts like the hashpah of Hashem. He writes like chaz v'sholem, and it can't be done. Iser godul ma'oid hu la'koir elitleish biyode afil sa'ar echad belvad b'chol makoim zikna ki hem tzinoiros shel shefa. And this point is not only we're talking about star or misparayim. This is trimming any part of the beard.
So there's a tshuva from the Chassam Sofer where he writes that he says the Merami Panu, who was certainly a big makubal from the Talmidim, I believe, right, of the Ari, right?
Talmidim.
And he didn't wear a beard, right?
Yeah, that's the version.
Yes, and the Lutzato, the great Lutzato, till he reached Eretz Yisrael, didn't have a beard. And I saw some of the late Achronim say that even though they were clearly from the Talmidim of the Ari, but in Chutz La'aretz it wasn't relevant. It seems that Chabad doesn't embrace this svara.
No, by the way, against the Chassam Sofer, you have a long tshuva in the Minchas Halacha. First, he's trying to debate the fact if the Ramami Pana did have a beard or not. He discredits it,
I respectfully don't think the Minchas Halaz is a bar plucked of the Chasam Sofer, but that's maybe a separate conversation. Okay, continue, yeah.
Yeah, so, there were different, obviously there were different opinions on the subject, but Chassidim in general and Chabad in particular were very, very strict on this subject.
So let me ask you a question, yeah? I mean, I think one of the lashonos of the Chasam Sofer is like Mali b'nistares, right? So, but here's another question, okay? The Chabad seems to want to go, with the Derech HaKabbalah, right? They do a lot, but like there's a lot of things in the Ari. Like if we started doing Al Pi Ari, like do you eat Asiris? What time of the day you're allowed to eat? Because these hours, the Dinim HaShoilet and the Dinim HaShoilet, they could be Oiker, the Chelik HaTzilus of the Adam that rewrite. I mean, does Chabad do that too?
No, it's a very good point, and that's why I didn't start with the Arizal. I started with the Be'er Hatev quoting the Arizal. Because, at such a question, do we go according to Kabbalah or not? It's a difference if it's, we call it clean Kabbalah or Kabbalah brought down in the Poiskin. And brought down in the Poiskin, like Be'er Hatev on the Shulchan Aruch, is like the Magen Avraham constantly bringing Kavanis, or even Yosef sometimes bringing in the Zohar. It's different. It's not clean Kabbalah. It's already Kabbalah, which Poiskim brought down into the realm of Halakha.
Okay. So
interesting. There is a letter from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, which he writes. I believe it's to the Rebbe, but I'm not sure. To his son-in-law, that he writes about a shoichet which doesn't have a beard. He said it's a difference. We were talking about a shoichet that comes from a background, that's a Chassidish background, or a shoichet from a German background where they didn't have beards. Because if it's a shoichet that comes from a German background, he says you could accept it because it could be a fully Yerei Shamayim, because this is how their Messiah went on. But if we're talking about Sheikh in the Chassidish background, or from such Kehillas that it did have beards, so the Sheikh which doesn't have a beard is considered that he's missing a little Yerei Shamayim.
Yeah, we had on before a Satmar, a Rav from Satmar, and he said it's a little bit like wearing a yarmulke. He didn't go Kabbalistic or Halakha. He said, this is our Messiah. He says, so when somebody walks in without a yarmulke, walks into shul or whatever, you would say, by Sfardim, by Ashkenazim, even Stam without a yarmulke, you would say, who steht? I mean, I'm quoting by my heart, but I think the Magen Avraham or the Taz in Bais says calls it a Midas Chasidus. He says, would you say, okay, the person's not over, is not being Mekayim a Midas Chasidus? So you would say, Ayid geit mit a yarmulke. So he said, wearing a beard is sort of like wearing a yarmulke. By us, it's not halacha, it's not that. This is the tzura, and if you take it off, it says something. Would you say Chabad has that attitude too, or is it really more a halacha and a Kabbalah thing?
I mentioned the yarmulke happens to be that Tzemach Tzedek claims that it's strictly halacha. Also, the Tzemach Tzedek.
I'm just quoting. Okay. I don't have a Shulchan Aruch in front of me, but I believe it's either the Magen Avraham or Taz that calls it a Midas Chasidus. Because there's a stira in two Makaimis in the Shulchan Aruch the Magen Avraham brings. If you look at
there's no question that in Chabad the shaving is considered strictly halacha, and the beard is Kabbalah. It's not Midas Chasidus.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. What about trimming a beard? Is it allowed?
I'm talking about trimming. The trimming is Kabbalah. Shaving is halacha.
So you don't shave it al halacha al silbash, and you don't trim it because you're being seistem or you're being mekatzer, but it's b'detius almost by in the tinairis. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
And in Chabad, if somebody would shave, like what's the chaymer that they would look at it?
Listen, it's a strange question because in Chabad we try to be makar of everybody that is even if he's a machal of Shabbos. So if somebody trims his beard or shaves his beard, you surely should be makar of him. So Chabad is not into kanoes, that, like by proving him wrong, by being, kicking him out of shul.
I'm saying, but I'm saying if they name it on la halacha, so if somebody shaves, he's an avarian in respect. I mean, he's over on loy silbash. I mean, it's not an issur of taglachas, but he's over on a lav.
Yes, this is
right. And Lamashal, and I'll tell you something else. The Shulchan Aruch says that I'm embarrassing myself. I think in Kufran Ches, that if somebody's over a lav b'tmidis, right, he gets a din of somebody's over a lav on a daily basis, right? He has a din of meridim v'loy malin. He has a din gets the din of a kaifer, because
he's a mummer on this thing.
Yeah, he has a din of a mummer lahachis, even if he does it l'tayavein, but if he does it for b'tzmidis, it's not considered a mummer l'tayavein anymore. It gets a din of a mummer lahachis, because he says, look, I'm totally indifferent. When somebody's totally indifferent, so that's the chaymer that Chabad takes it.
In inyan, yes. Practically, I never heard or met such chaymer. But in inyan, since we're talking about the same fact that it's halakha, and it could go, it could be the eraisa. So in inyan, this is the way
now,
we look
are
at
there
it.
Are there other areas that you could think of in Chabad where they would argue on the Shulchan Aruch and say, we argue on the Shulchan Aruch, and this is the way? Could you think of other places? I mean, to come out against the Bais Yosef like this with such a tkifis.
No, the comment that he makes, like, tiyufta, or what is the lashon over there, is a strong lashon, but it's like, the question is I don't think is right, because when you learn Shulchan Aruch, the Shach and the Taz, the Mangaram sometimes come out against the Machaber, and it's part of the halachic discussion. So
I understand, but I would respectfully say that there's a little bit of a difference. Is that usually when you have a Ramah or a Shach or a Taz, they'll say, we're not going with the Bais Yosef here, we're going with the Rambam. We're not going with the Bais Yosef, we're going to go with the Trumas Hadeshin. We're not going with the Bais Yosef. They're going to be tied with themselves, the Ilan Gadol, just to learn a new shot that argue on the Bais Yosef it occurs, but it's less common.
No, over here also, the Tzemach Tzedek goes on the Rambam. The Tzemach Tzedek brings the Rambam.
I understand, but who argues on the Rambam Beferish?
Who are the poskim that already besides the
which of the Rishon? No.
Which the lashon is in Oizayin, the tiyuf to the Bais Yosef.
Yeah, so I'm saying the Tar Kain, Misbarayim Kain Tar. Are there any Rishonim that say that there's an Isser? I don't know of any Rishonim.
The Tzemach Tzedek brings the Sefer HaChinuch over there.
That says it's like Silbash?
No, that it's Osir. Because of Rambam Zam Megillah B'Sfarayim Potter, nire mit Dvorah the Dafke Potter hu, aber Osir Lasse is kein. And he says, and he points to the Sechtes Nozes of Tzemach Tzedek, he is pointing to the same sugi here in Ches Tes.
Who, the Sefer HaChinuch?
Yes.
I have to look that up. Well, Rabbi Oberlander, it's an honor to have you on, and could you bench the whole olam, the bracha of a shliach from Hungary who goes to such a remote place with such mesiras nefesh? Give uns Vinchens ala bracha. Let's get a bracha from you.
Hashem should help you and all the listeners. So kennen ton laharbis kveit shemayim. Whatever you do, wherever you meet a Yid, try to get him a step closer to Yiddishkeit.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi Oberlander.
Thank you.
Kolta, bye-bye. We have on the phone with us from Williamsburg, Rabbi Kahana. He's the head of Machon, Zichron, Kehuna, Menal of Rameh Balanef, a Talmid of Satmar, Rav Shaul Brus, from Marat Chabek. Shalom Aleichem, Rav Kahana.
Aleichem Shulam. How are you?
So we're talking about shaving today.
Can you tell us what the Hasidic sheet is, and this from a halachic point of view, and hashkafa point of view?
Okay. From a halachic point of view, I think there is no disagreement between the Hasidim and non-Hasidim, and the Zichron is basically clear on that. But the Hasidim, when you
say clear, define clear.
The halacha is, that you're not allowed to use certain kinds of instruments to shave your beard, but but certain kinds of shaving instruments and cream, I think, is allowed. That's halachadik, and there's a lot of Chushviden who are doing this based on their Messiah. But by Hasidim, and I think these days also by the Yeshivische Welt, especially after the Chasana, once you after the Chasana, we are very marked not to touch, not to shave, not to touch the beard. And the reason for that is basically what we discussed last time, that you need to be proactive. You need to be proactive, and as the doiris are schwacher and schwacher in Rochnius, because every generation that is further than Har Sinai, generally speaking, the doiris is schwacher. So you have to be more proactive and to find ways to make more gedurim, which is based on the Torah. All the gedurim since Shlomo HaMelech and Chazal and the Rishonim, Machonim, everything what they did, what they added to Klal Yisrael, is based on the Torah. They didn't make up new rules or new concepts. Everything's based on the Torah. The same thing with the beard. The Torah says you shouldn't shave the beard with certain instruments. So what they did is they made, especially the Hasidim, they made this a big gather, a big fence, of which confirms the uniform of Hasidic person, and reminds us who we are, that we should never forget who we are. So that's why
Rav Kahana, it's basically then a way of looking different than the Goyim. This is our tzura. Is that what your point?
Looking different, especially the beard brings some kind of chashivas to a person. At least the way even in the old days, all the rabbunim used to have beards. Even in the old days, the shaving mostly was done. The balbatim used to shave in the old days.
So you say it's more of a Yiddish tzura. That's what it's about.
It's a chushev tzira, a Yiddish tzira based. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Let's say somebody lives in the Muslim world. You would be a Satmar Chassid, and you move to Tunisia, Malta, right? And over there, all the Arabs run around with langa beard, and not payas, but with langa beard, right?
Right.
So would you say in an area like that, where you say, wow, if we wear a beard, we look just like them, there's nothing special about it, would you still wear a beard? If it's just about, it's a tzura, and we look different than the Goyim, well, guess what, all the Goyim, you look at, most of these Arab terrorists, they have long beards, right? They wear the big yarmulkes, the big white yarmulkes, and they have the big, so would you say, geez, we have no more reason anymore to have it, I guess? Maybe we should shave our beards so that would be the tzura of a Yid.
Okay, so it's not exactly Yiddish tzira. It's more the tzira that it's a chushev tzira, like all the rabbunim and even the non-Jewish people, the respectful people. Like if you see the pictures of George Washington and all the noblemen, as they used to call them in the old days. Not all of them, but this was the uniform of chushev people, and especially since it's based on the Torah.
Wait, I don't believe George Washington had a beard, but maybe you have a different.
No, sorry, not George Washington. Okay, let's see, not George Washington, but the people in the old days. Let's see who the founding fathers. Okay, we'll have to check who of them.
Abraham Lincoln had a beard.
Abraham Lincoln, Benjamin Franklin. I don't know. Let's see.
I think Lincoln had a beard. Okay.
Okay, Benjamin Franklin also did not. Okay, so but okay, let's put this: all the philosophers had beards. Aristotle had a beard, and even the philosophers from 200 years ago. Who's one of the big guys from 200 years? Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton did not, I think. But it was a chushev thing, and someone told me that's the reason that in the literature world they are makbet to wear a necktie. Even necktie is pretty much, it's not Yiddish, but it brings a cheshivas to a person. And there's a concept that a people needs to be chushev. He needs to respect himself and act respectful, which is part of a religious and Yiddish culture, to act respectful. So the beard acts respectful.
But can I, Rav Kahana, I would take the position that today, when somebody has a beard, especially if it's a longish beard, it doesn't look chashuv anymore. It's considered odd. It's not considered dignified. So if the reason to do it is because of dignity, the argument should be is you look like a hillbilly. It looks the opposite of chashuv.
Chashuv doesn't mean...
And chashuv changes. Maybe 200 years ago, or Aristotle lived, 1,000 years ago, they remember, since then we have color photographs also. Things have changed. Maybe in Aristotle's times, having a beard was chashuv. I think today, when somebody walks in with a beard, they scratch their head and they think he's from Amish country. Nobody thinks it's chashuv.
Chashuv does not mean loft or conformist or... Chashuv means a certain... I will have to think about it. The chashuv does not necessarily mean liked. Chashuv means it brings a certain amount of
dignity.
I don't want to use dignity. I don't want to go there. Intimidation, but I don't want to use. It's not intimidation, of course. Because I know some people are against having beards because it intimidates other people who do not. So the word is not intimidation. A certain amount of respect. And look, like I said, we didn't make this up. And the whole point is because it's the concept in the Torah. And one thing I forgot to add before, that the Kabbalah also says you should not touch the beard at all. It's in Eitz Chaim. Chaim Vital says you should not touch the beard. So the Kabbalah was also a big thing by Hasidim. So you have this concept of the Torah, and you have this thing in Kabbalah, and this was a part of the uniform, of Chushev people, all the generations, and all the Rabbunim, and all the generations. So it is part of the Masorah, and especially since look, you can look at it like a yarmulke, yeah, okay. They didn't used to wear yarmulkes. Only the Chushev people used to. The Mudar says Rabbi Kahana, the Chushev people, he used to have a yarmulke on their head. But later it became a Yiddish malbish, and the Terzul says that since it's a Yiddish malbish and someone who does not wear a yarmulke, it's problematic. I think that Taz actually says it's a midas, or maybe I'm mixing it up with the Magen Avram, that it's a midas chasidus in Simon Bais. But your point is that when somebody walks in without a yarmulke, you're not going to say, well, he's being over on midas chasidus. You're going to say he had verloren the tzura von a Yid. He doesn't look like a Yid anymore. So you're saying that a beard is part of the tzura of a Yid. So even if somebody doesn't wear it, even if it's just an inyan, quote unquote, of tzura, but it's sort of, he's voting that he's not part of, at least in the Chassidish Kreisen, of what they identify as Knesset Yisrael. Is that how you would describe it? Yes.
Okay, I can accept that.
And I want to add this point again, that this tzura is based on halachic. It's a halachic concept, and it's a tradition. Okay.
Well, it's certainly, Sashchis is, Sashchis and in both Emor and Kedoshim is both, is a deraisa. I mean, assuming it's not done correctly,
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. In the Chassidish world, when they look at a Litvish person who doesn't have a beard, what is the attitude?
Look, I cannot speak for everybody, but my attitude is that as long he keeps his Messiah, he is chushev, as he's still a chushev yid like everybody else, as long as this is part of his Messiah.
So, and let me just add on to what you're saying, Rabbi Kahana. Would you say, and I'm probably going to offend a lot of people, but I'm saying a historical fact, that in Hasidische Kreisen, the incidence of what they call today off the derech is far lower historically than any other part of Klal Yisrael. I mean, you look at the Ashkenazim from Germany, you look at the Litvisha from the Lita, you look at the Sfardim. I mean, the Chassidim, they just didn't lose a lot of people. Would you say that this emphasis on both lavush and something like a beard, which both halachically really don't have a real makar, or have somewhat of a makar, but it's not like there's an issa like you started with, but would you say that in part because of this anhaga is why Chassidus has by far had the greatest stickiness as people staying within the confines, staying from and staying part of Klal Yisrael?
Yes, it's definitely a big part of the equation for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you look different, it's not so easy to get mixed up in places that you should not go, and the people you should not meet. So it gives you a certain amount of offense, that's number one. Number two, there's a concept of Chassidus. In Chassidim, there's a concept of Chassidus, which is also based on the Torah, that we need to be trained that we don't need to be conformist. We are different, and that's the way we were brought up. We are different. So it gives if you're used to this concept of non-conformist, it's easier to live in a place when most of the people are different, because you're used to the fact that you are different.
So you're saying that the beard in a way underlines the hein am levada yishkein.
Yes. And
from the beginning we're levada yishkein. We're not a chelik. We think differently. We act differently. So it's not just that it separates them, but mitzias, but it's also it's a chinuch and an education in the ata b'chatanu mikol amim.
Yes, that we are different, right?
Thank you, Rav Kahana, for outlining it so clearly.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.